For generations, my family has practiced the stewardship, a tradition where the successful son must fund the one who stayed behind. When my golden boy brother and my own fiancée conspired to use it to drain my life savings, I knew I had to act. They thought they were tricking me into a simple investment. They didn't know I was conducting a secret financial crime investigation into their plot, and I was about to turn their sacred tradition into their public ruin. This is the story of how I set a trap and exposed them all. If you enjoyed this video or found it helpful, go ahead and give it a like. It really helps me out. And if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any future videos. Thanks a bunch. The camera feed on my laptop was grainy, but the betrayal was crystal clear. I was supposed to be in a hotel room in San Jose, 1,700 miles away, celebrating the close of a multi-million-dollar deal for my company. Instead, I was in a sterile business suite just 20 minutes from my own house in Austin, Texas, watching my life fall apart in low resolution. There on the screen, in the living room I designed, on the couch I paid for, was my fiancée, Jenna, and my younger brother, Elias. Her head was on his shoulder, his arm draped casually around her. They were laughing, a quiet, intimate laugh that wasn't meant for anyone else. Then he leaned in and kissed her. It wasn't a quick, friendly peck. It was slow and deliberate. It was the kind of kiss that says, "This belongs to me now." A strange, cold calm settled over me. There was no rage, no shattering heartbreak. That would come later. In that moment, all I felt was the click of a final puzzle piece locking into place. All the weirdness of the last 6 months, the hushed phone calls, the inside jokes I wasn't in on, Jenna's sudden, intense interest in my investment portfolio, it all coalesced into this one, ugly, undeniable image. You have to understand my brother, Elias. To our family, he is the son. He's the one who stayed behind in our dusty West Texas town, the one who carries the family name with a charming grin and a perpetually empty wallet. I'm 2 years older, the one who got out, the one who built a career in software from nothing. But in my family's eyes, my success wasn't my own. It belonged to the collective, and Elias was its chief beneficiary. This dynamic is codified in our family's most horrifying tradition. We call it, the stewardship. It's an unspoken rule, passed down through generations. The son who leaves and finds success becomes the steward for the one who stays. It's my duty, as the steward, to ensure my brother, the heart of the family, is taken care of. It sounds noble, doesn't it? Like something out of an old novel. In practice, it's a system of emotional and financial blackmail, and I've been its primary victim my whole life. I paid for Elias's first car when he wrecked his. I paid his community college tuition for 2 semesters before he dropped out. I funded 3 of his failed business ventures. Each time my father would sit me down and give me the same speech. "It's your duty, Nathan. He's the heart. You're the hands. The hands provide for the heart." It was a perfect system of learned helplessness, where my only role was to enable my brother's mediocrity. When I met Jenna, I thought I'd finally found someone who saw me for me, not for what I could provide. She was brilliant, ambitious, a rising star at her marketing firm. She understood my drive because she had it too. When I told her about the stewardship, she was appalled. "That's not a tradition, Nathan," she'd said, her eyes flashing with righteous anger. "That's exploitation." She was my ally, my partner, the person I was building a fortress with, a new life away from the toxic dynamics of my past. But over the last year, something had shifted. Elias started visiting us in Austin more often. "I'm just checking on my big brother," he'd say, flashing that 1,000-watt smile. At first, Jenna kept her distance. Then, gradually, I noticed a change. She started laughing at his jokes a little too loudly. She'd defend him when I'd get frustrated. "She just looks up to you, honey," she'd say. A line that now feels like a shard of glass in my memory. The gaslighting was so subtle, so expertly done, that I dismissed my own gut feelings as paranoia. The final push came a month ago. Elias called me, his voice electric with excitement. He had a once-in-a-lifetime business opportunity. A commercial real estate deal that was a guaranteed home run. He just needed a capital investor. The price tag, $250,000. I laughed. "Elias, I'm not a bank." His voice turned cold. "This isn't me asking for a handout, Nathan. This is a real deal. I've got a partner. It's all legitimate." A week later, Jenna sat me down. She had a full presentation prepared on her laptop. Charts, projections, market analysis. "Honey, "I've looked at the numbers on Elias's deal," she said, her tone serious and professional. "It's surprisingly solid. If we structure it as a formal investment, it could be a really smart move. It's a way to fulfill your stewardship, but actually get a return on it." The cognitive dissonance was staggering. The woman who once called my family's tradition exploitation was now using it as a selling point, complete with a PowerPoint deck. She was speaking my language, the language of logic and returns, to sell me on his fantasy. Still, I was torn. Part of me, the part conditioned for a lifetime to please my father and rescue my brother, wanted to believe it. But the other part, the software developer who debugs systems for a living, saw a flaw in the code. That's when I set the trap. I told him I had an urgent week-long business trip to San Jose, a lie. As soon as I left the house, I circled back and checked into the hotel down the road. I had installed a single, discreet security camera in our living room months ago, after a neighbor had a break-in. I'd almost forgotten about it. Now, it was my only window into the truth. Watching them on the screen, I felt the last vestiges of my old life burn away. This wasn't just a simple affair. That would have been cleaner, in a way. This was a conspiracy. The stolen kisses were just a symptom of a much deeper disease. They weren't just betraying me emotionally, they were planning to rob me. The investment wasn't an opportunity, it was a heist. Jenna wasn't just cheating on me. Oh, I know. She was my brother's accomplice in a financial crime investigation waiting to happen. My father called me the next morning. "Elias tells me you're considering the investment," he said, his voice filled with a rare warmth. It was the approval I'd been chasing my whole life, and it felt disgusting. "We're going to have a formal meeting when you get back. A proper stewardship council. We'll sign the papers. You're doing the right thing, son. You're being a good steward." Sign the papers. The phrase echoed in my head. They weren't just asking for a wire transfer, they were preparing legal documents. This was more organized, more predatory than I had ever imagined. "Of course, Dad," I said, my voice a perfect imitation of the dutiful son. "I'll be there. I wouldn't miss it for the world." I hung up the phone and stared at my reflection in the dark hotel room window. The man looking back wasn't the trusting, naive fool who had left his house yesterday. His eyes were cold, calculating. The steward was dead. A predator had taken his place. And my family had absolutely no idea they were about to walk right into my trap. The week I spent in that hotel room was the most productive of my life. The emotional shock had crystallized into a cold, diamond-hard resolve. I wasn't just a victim anymore. I was a plaintiff, and I was going to build a case so airtight it would suffocate them. My first call was to a man named David Chen, a forensic accountant I'd worked with during a corporate acquisition. He was a quiet genius, a guy who could find a single fraudulent transaction hidden in a mountain of data. "David," I said, keeping my voice level, "and I have a personal project for you. I think my fiancée and my brother are planning to defraud me. I need you to find out everything you can about this real estate opportunity he's pitched." My second call was to a private investigator. I needed to know who Elias's partner was. I needed to know how deep this went. While they worked, I played my part. I sent Jenna loving texts from my trip. "Can't wait to be home, miss you." She'd reply with heart emojis, telling me she was counting the minutes. The duplicity was so effortless on her part, it was almost admirable. She was a natural. It made me wonder how long she'd been wearing this mask. It also made me wonder how I could have been so blind. The love I felt for her was battling the raw data of her betrayal. A war inside my own head that left me exhausted and numb. The reports started coming in within 48 hours, and they were worse than I had imagined. David Chen's findings came first. He discovered that the property Elias was supposedly developing was a real place, but it wasn't for sale. It was owned by the city and slated for demolition. The partner, a company called Elysian Fields Development LLC, was a shell corporation registered in Delaware just 2 months prior. The sole officer listed? Elias. There was no partner. There was no deal. There was only a fake company and a plot to funnel my money directly into his pocket. Then, the private investigator's report landed in my inbox. He'd done a deep dive on Jenna. He found records of dozens of lunches and dinners with Elias over the past 6 months, all during times she'd told me she was working late or out with girlfriends. But the real bomb was a credit check. She had over $30,000 in secret credit card debt, an amount she'd hidden from me completely. She wasn't just ambitious, she was desperate. My brother hadn't just seduced her, he'd found her weak spot. She saw my money as a life raft, and Elias was offering to help her climb aboard. This wasn't a crime of passion. It was a meticulously planned financial execution. And the legal documents my father mentioned? That was the kill shot. They weren't just for a simple investment. My lawyer, after some digging, suspected they would be signing papers that, under the guise of the stewardship, would give Elias power of attorney over a significant portion of my investment trust. They weren't just trying to steal $250,000 from me. They were trying to hijack my entire future. When I finally came home from my trip, Jenna greeted me at the door with a passionate kiss. It felt like being kissed by a snake. I smiled, played the part of the happy, oblivious fiancée, and let her believe her plan was working perfectly. The Stewardship Council was scheduled for that Saturday at my father's house. I spent Friday preparing my own presentation. I printed out the Shell Corporation documents. I printed the peace report on Jenna's debt and her secret meetings with Elias. I printed out bank statements showing the web of small, failing businesses Elias had started over the years, all funded by me. I put it all into a crisp, black binder. When I walked into my father's house, they were all there, arranged in the living room like a tribunal. My father, in his armchair radiating patriarchal authority. Elias, looking smug and confident. And Jenna, standing slightly behind him, her face a perfect mask of supportive concern. She shot me a warm, encouraging smile, a final, sickening act of gaslighting. "Nathan," my father began, his voice solemn, "and we are here to formalize your commitment. The stewardship is the bedrock of this family. It ensures we all rise together. Elias has a plan that will secure his future, and in turn, secure this family's legacy. It is your honor and your duty to support him." He slid a thick stack of papers across the coffee table. "The official legal documents." Jenna spoke up, her voice smooth as silk. "I've reviewed these with an attorney, Nathan. It's all standard. It protects your investment while giving Elias the liquidity he needs to move forward." I looked at her, at the woman I was going to marry, lying so easily to my face. The last flicker of love I had for her died in that moment. I picked up the pen. Elias was beaming. My father nodded in approval. Then, instead of signing, I put the pen down and opened my black binder. "You're right, Dad," I said, my voice cutting through the smug silence. "Elias here to talk about the family's legacy. So let's start with the legacy of Elysian Fields Development, LLC." I tossed the printout of the Shell Corporation filing onto the table. Elias's smile faltered. "It's a very impressive company," I continued, my voice cold and even. "Registered 2 months ago. Its only officer is you, Elias. There is no partner. And the property you're developing, the city of Marfa is tearing it down in 6 weeks. So tell me, what exactly am I investing in?" The room went dead silent. Elias's face went from smug to sheet white. My father stared at the papers, his brow furrowed in confusion. I wasn't finished. I turned to Jenna. "And you, Jenna, you said you had an attorney review these papers. That's funny. Because my attorney says these documents don't just protect my investment, and they grant Elias partial control over my entire trust. And speaking of being thorough, I was also surprised to learn about your $30,000 in credit card debt. I guess that's why you've been so eager to help Elias secure his future." I threw the PI's report on top of the other documents. Jenna looked like she had been physically struck. Her mask of concern shattered, replaced by raw, naked panic. Finally, I looked at my father. I looked at my father. "For 30 years you have preached to me about my duty. You have told me I exist to provide for my brother. You have used this tradition, the stewardship, to force me to fund his failures, to clean up his messes, and now to be the victim of his felony fraud. You didn't raise a son. You raised a parasite. And you didn't raise a steward. You raised a host." My father was on his feet, his face purple with rage. "How dare you?" "I dare," I interrupted, my voice shaking with a lifetime of repressed anger. "Because I'm done. The stewardship is over. It died today. There will be no more money. Not for Elias, not for you, not for anyone. The bank is closed, permanently." Elias, seeing his entire scheme collapse, lunged at me, his face twisted in a mask of pure narcissistic rage. "It ruined everything," he screamed. I didn't even flinch. I just stepped aside. "Oh no, Elias, you did, and you did it with her." I turned and walked out of that house for the last time. As I left, I could hear the screaming, the accusations, the sound of a family devouring itself now that its host was gone. Jenna called my phone 100 times that night, leaving hysterical, sobbing voicemails. I deleted them without listening. The next Monday, my lawyer sent a formal notice to Elias and Jenna, informing them that a criminal investigation into conspiracy to commit fraud was being opened. Faced with actual prison time, their alliance crumbled. They immediately turned on each other, each one blaming the other in a desperate attempt to save themselves. The stewardship, my family's sacred tradition, is dead. It was a lie, and it took destroying my life as I knew it to finally expose it. But the life I have now, the one I'm building on my own terms, without the weight of their expectations and deceit, is honest. It's clean. And for the first time, it feels completely and utterly mine.